Run Your Story family, this is Peyton Gaillard with Run Your Story, where every story needs to be heard. And I'm so excited to be able to share with you guys Peyton Gaillard and his Run Your Story. You probably hear the name a lot, and that's because he is the editor for our podcast. He also designs our website, and he owns Gaillard Tech Services. And honestly, Run Your Story would not be what it is today if it was not for Gray. And we also thought this would be the perfect opportunity to share his story because so much of our story is part of the Women's Resource Center. And so since we are teaming up this month with them, we thought this is the perfect opportunity for him to share his run story. And for you guys, that when you come on to sit down with us and to share your story, that you know that the editor cares about the running community, absolutely loves the running community, and he just wants to make it better. And so, Gray, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much that I learned about him, and we run together and we do life together, and I had no idea some of this stuff. So that was really cool. It was such a cool moment. And so truly thankful for you, Gray, and all that you do for Run Your Story and for sitting down finally with Run Your Story to be interviewed. And as I mentioned, this month's podcast is being brought to you by the Women's Resource Center. They are people who walk with you on your journey. Their services are free and confidential. They provide everything from medical to educational services. And on September 30th, they have the This Is Life 5K. You can register now or become a sponsor. Come on, guys, if you want to do it. Guys, at the Women's Resource Center, life is valued, people are empowered, and families are thriving. You can find more information about them at wrcmobile.org, or you can find them on our main page at runyourstory.com. And so huge shout out and thank you to the Women's Resource Center. We absolutely love this partnership and just so excited. And you'll hear later on how much the Women's Resource Center means to both Gray and I and to our family. And so we're truly thankful for that, and it's such an honor. And we'll see you guys on September 30th for This Is Life, which is going to be such a fun event, and they are doing such a great job already planning this event. So huge shout out to the Women's Resource Center for all that hard work. All right, guys, lace up your running shoes. It's time to go hit the pavement with Peyton Gaillard and his Run Your Story. Well, this is very exciting because we have the guy that makes sure that everyone sounds great on the podcast and who's done a tremendous job with our website and tells me all the time all the updates he's made and have I checked my website. Great. Obviously, you have such a passion for Run Your Story, and such a cool thing is that what people don't know is whenever the idea came to me, I sent you a message and I said, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you automatically said, yes, we'll talk more whenever you get home. You didn't say, no, that's a dumb idea or anything like that. Like, you have been on board from this from day one. And for the record, Run Your Story would not be Run Your Story if it wasn't for you and all that you do and sacrifice. And now, thanks to our Patreon supporters, I get to pay you. Not enough, though, but I do get to pay you a little bit for, again, all that you do for Run Your Story. And you're always looking to make the running community have better access to race information and all of that. And so I truly appreciate all that you do for Run Your Story.
Yeah, it's an honor to do that and to be a part of the running community. I do enjoy the website and making sure everything looks nice and making sure that everybody has access to the resources they need whenever they're getting ready for a run, they're planning for running, and things like that. And I do enjoy editing for the podcast. I use some AI software, which is really nice, and that helps a lot. But producing a podcast does take a lot of work. It takes many hours, and I enjoy doing it. So.
Again, appreciate you and all the patience that you give. So what people may not know is that you actually started running before I did. So, Gray, what is your run story?
It goes back far, but when I was growing up, I played baseball throughout, from t-ball all the way up to high school, and I played some basketball in high school, and I just was athletic, but I never was into the running community per se. And then later on, after high school, there was the Tom Bigby Running Club in our local community, and they put together or hosted multiple races throughout the area. So I got started with that. My dad was running. He enjoyed doing it, and that's how we got started. We were also doing a lot of bike rides during that time period. So really the focus was mostly on bike rides during that time. We just did running as something else we did. But I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of, I hear a lot of the podcast. I hear all the podcasts, right? And there's lots of stories out there. And a lot of people will say things like, I didn't know I was a runner until something had occurred, like getting up early in the morning and going on runs and things like that. So that was the way I looked at it as well. So the only times I went on a run was for the run that was scheduled. So there wasn't lots of training and preparation and things like that. And of course, that was when I was a lot younger. But, since then, going to college and raising a family and working full time, running was not something that we really did often. For me, it was really just whatever the races were coming up. But it wasn't too long ago. It was this year that my wife, Allison, challenged me to run a 10K, which I was like, yeah, but you have to be a runner to do something like that. But that was great. It was really great. Having a training program and regimented and getting up early and doing it, making sure you have the right footwear, making sure you're doing the right kind of exercises and things like that, it really made a difference. And I actually did the 10K. And that was Azalea Trail Run.
Yeah.
So Azalea Trail Run is something that our family has participated in for many years. We've done it a lot. We enjoy it. But that was the first time I had done a 10K, and it was this year. So that surprised me. I just didn't think I could ever do something like that.
Really?
Yeah. I thought 5K was my limit. I'm not training for these things. I'm just going out and running, run, stop throughout the whole thing. And I eventually make my way across the finish line. But yeah, actually putting forth the effort, training, having the right equipment, it really made a difference. And it actually built some confidence in me, knowing that I can actually do this. I can actually do that and probably go further. I'm not saying I'm going to go further. I'm just saying that
half marathon.
If I just put my mind to it and I put effort into it, I think I can do those kinds of things.
I'm still trying to convince you to do Battleship 12K.
Right. 12K is higher than a 10K.
It is. But if you can do a 10K, you can do the 12K.
I hear that a lot.
So what are some lessons that you've learned from running?
I would say that if you do put your mind to it, you can achieve it. So, I don't know. I just don't really I didn't consider myself a runner per se, just someone who just got out and ran. But I've learned through the podcast that if you get out there and run, you're a runner. If you stop and walk most of the way, you're a runner.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter how much you actually put into it. You are a runner. But as far as lessons, I would say that whenever I'm out there running, it seems like if I put forth the effort, it's easier. Whereas if I don't and I just show up to the race, then it's very difficult. I just have to ask myself, do I really want to make this harder on myself or not?
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Do you have a favorite race and why?
I would say that my favorite race is going to be the Alpha Women's Resource Center 5Ks that were put on. They were called Run to the Light. And me and you and others helped get that going in Jackson, Alabama. And that was something that we were very passionate about. We both volunteered there as abstinents and board members and things like that. I ended up getting on the payroll for them and became an abstinence coordinator. The Women's Resource Center in Jackson is so passionate about life and getting out into the community and helping people and things like that. So to put together a run that supports such a great cause was just wonderful. And not only that, but it was like the #1 run in Jackson. And it was crazy because it was in the middle of August. It was hot. We did it at night, which who does runs at night? We did a run at night. And it was so hot. But it's still one of my favorite runs because it was just unique. We had sprinklers out there on the streets that people could just run through. We had kids with water guns and they could just spray you down unless you just hold your hand up and say, don't spray me. But they'll spray you, they love it. And it feels good. We also did glow-in-the-dark runs, so you could wear all kinds of glow-in-the-dark things, and we had the neon lights. So it was just fun. It was unique. It was for a great cause, and a lot of people just came out and supported that run. So that was one of my favorites.
And we still go back.
We still do.
We still go back to that run because, one, we get to see our Jackson people, but also, yeah, like you said, it's a great run. And in Mobile County, we're fortunate to have gotten plugged in with the Women's Resource Center there.
Yes.
And they'll be hosting a run, which we'll talk about later on, September 30th. So, yeah, it's been really cool to see full circle. I actually did not know that was going to be your favorite race. I wasn't even thinking that. But, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, awesome. I don't even know if I should ask this, but what is your pre-race routine?
Well, my pre-race routine would be making sure that I've got the carb load ahead the day before. But then when I wake up in the morning, I like to have either a toast or a bagel with cream cheese on it, or toast with peanut butter and a banana with honey and cinnamon. Something like that. I have learned that if I have that toast or bagel, that it just sits really well on my stomach. And I'm able to do the whole race, no stomach cramps and anything like that, or side cramps or anything. And once I figured that out about my body, I'm like, then that's what I'm doing. Before, there was all kinds of stuff that I did, and it didn't seem to be working. So when I switched over to that, that's what worked. As far as stretching goes, I do some light stretching right before the run, maybe within 10 minutes before the run. Just rolling my ankles around, stretching my legs out, doing some like butt kick type movements. That way I just stretch out the legs a little bit. But I'm mostly running 5Ks, so it's not really that big of a deal. You know,
it is that big of a deal. Yes, it is. What does your post-race routine look like?
There's just relaxing. Yeah. That's just going to be showering and relaxing. As far as stretching afterwards, I've not felt a need to just do that. I might be sore after a race, but most of the time I'm not. And I'm fine with actually not stretching afterwards. That may not be the case in years to come, but at least for now, there's not really much of a post-race routine.
Gotcha. Now, I have no idea, this next question, like what you're going to say. Do you have a favorite running item?
Yes.
Okay.
I do have my watch. I have a Samsung watch. So not like a sports watch per se, but it does have all the activities on there. And then I have my phone.
Okay.
So I'm a data guy, so I like keeping up with the data and making sure I have those things. Other than that, it doesn't really matter what I'm wearing or anything like that. It's whatever the occasion happens to be. If it's a really cold race, I'm going to wear a few layers, but otherwise it's not much. And so it's just the electronics, really.
Now, you just said something, and I'm going to contradict you here about your outfit. That's because you'll say, what do you want me to wear to this race?
That's true.
So someone picks out your clothes.
Yeah, somebody's special.
Okay, favorite running shoes?
Well, I've been running in the Brooks. So those are the ones that I've been running in. We got those before the 10K training. We went and got fitted and made sure that I had the right kinds of shoes. So those were great. And I was able to get those. I have since purchased some new shoes, but I have not actually worn them yet.
And why? Why did you get new shoes, Gray?
Because I listened to the podcast. And in the podcast, there's so many people that talk about how much the shoes matter. And I believe them. So I purchased some very expensive shoes, and I haven't worn them yet. They're just right there on the shelf waiting on me, but I plan on using those very soon.
And they would be the what? Saucony Speed. Yep.
The Saucony Speed.
Yep.
Yeah.
AKA what Lance and Brent wear.
I've heard that there's some fast runners that wear these shoes.
Running fuel. You talked about pre-race. So like when you did the 10K, was there anything that you fueled along the way?
No, there was nothing I fueled along the way.
Okay. Cool. Favorite running memory? Do you have one?
Not really. I don't have a favorite other than just the experience I had with the Alpha Run to the Light. Those were just great memories. Those were great times supporting a great cause. but nothing specific in a run that was a favorite.
So I have a memory I'm going to share.
Go for it.
So you have 2 younger brothers. You're the oldest brother. Mm-hmm. And so our family tradition is that we do the turkey trot.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you know where I'm going with this? And so at the time, which your middle brother still lives in California, so he was training in California. Your youngest brother, Brad, lives in Tuscaloosa, so he was training. So we would get group text messages of screenshots of the different ones, and you're like, I'm not going to let them beat me. And I was like, Gray, you have to go train. You're just like, I'm not going to let them beat me. You didn't let them beat you. But that was just so fun, like the group text message. And then, of course, that was November. That was very hot and humid. Mm-hmm. And that was when it was at the Battleship.
Yes.
And so Randy, who had been training in California with no humidity, comes across, because there had been a lot of smack talk going on in these group texts. And he crosses the finish line, and I hear someone say, "Where were you?"
Right.
And he said, "Man, I was not expecting this to be this hot and humid."
Yes.
So for me, that was just such a fun memory, because we've all done it. The 4 of us with our, the 2 of us with our kids, like we get up every Thanksgiving morning, and that's a tradition that we've done for a really long time now. So that was really cool to have your dad and your 2 brothers come and join us. But the smack talk that happened, yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. Do you have, after you get done with a race, that you're like, ooh, I really want to go eat this?
No, I don't have any cravings.
No?
Wherever we go is where we go. I typically ask you where you would like to go, and then I'm good with whatever that is.
Okay. It's a good answer. I like that answer. Do you listen to music while you run?
No.
Okay.
When I first started running, I did, because I thought that's what runners do. I would see runners. I would see advertisements for runners. They would have their earphones in. And I was like, well, this is what runners do, so I'm going to mimic that. But I did get to the point where I was like, but there's traffic, and there's dogs, and there's all these things that could happen. And I would just prefer not to listen to any kind of music. So I haven't listened to music in a very long time in running. Okay.
Again, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. Favorite cross-training activity? Do you have one?
Occasionally, or less than occasionally, I do get on the Peloton bike. And we also happen to be in our workout room right now. So I do work out occasionally. Should probably do more, but not per se cross-training. But those are the 2 things that I'm able to do as a cross-training activity. So when I am working out, if I am actually training for a race, then those are the things that I'm going to be doing.
Yeah. And you can attest to how important strength training is, because while you were training for the 10K, you had a small little injury.
I did.
And so we sidelined you a little bit. You went and saw a PT.
I did.
And she gave you, shout out to Kristen Rather for giving you some great exercises and just things to look for. And so we came home, and I made sure that you were rehabbing correctly. And then you...
And it all worked. I did get the injury. It was in my left knee on the right side. And I didn't know what that was going to entail. I mean, I had set out to train for the 10K. I was going down a route that I always go down. But for whatever reason, when I was going on a downward slope, it just popped over there. And then I did actually finish that run, which was interesting. But when I got home, I really felt it. And yeah, all that rehab help, having you as an athletic trainer type, helping me each day, making sure that I'm doing the right things, that really did make a difference. I actually ran the entire 10K without stopping, and I attribute that to all the recovery that I was able to do from that injury.
Yeah.
For the runners out there that find themselves injured, make sure you take care of yourself so that you're prepared for whatever that upcoming race is.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. I like that. Have you had a race that you're like, don't know that I want to go do?
I would say that most races I do want to do.
Okay.
So they are fun, they're energetic, they're for a great cause, things like that. The only one that I would really point out is the one over in Point Clear. And I don't remember the name of that race, But of course, Point Clear is a very beautiful area. You can see across the bay. There's a park there. It's really nice. But running down those roads, there's just nothing. There's just trees on the side of the road. They're just really tall. They're like pine trees and others. And there's just no scenery whatsoever. I think that the year that I did run, it was very foggy. So it was just like, it's so boring. But other than that, all the other runs are not so boring. We've done runs in Mississippi. We've done runs in Florida, lots of here in Alabama. There's lots of scenic areas and fun places. Georgia. We've run in Georgia and Atlanta. There's a lot of scenery. There's lots of things to look at. But that one, I don't really have much of a desire to go back and do that one.
I'll keep that in mind. I'm actually surprised you said that. I thought you were going to say, I'll never do another triathlon again.
Yeah, triathlon's a little different. But yeah, I did that, 4 years ago or 6 years ago?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. You did twice.
I did do it twice. I suffered twice. But the swim part, it's very difficult. I can swim, but that distance is 300 meters is a lot for me, for my endurance and stuff. So I guess if I actually get out and train, I might can do it. I should be able to do it. But yeah, if I'm not training for it, I'm not doing that one. I'm definitely not doing that.
Oh, so you'll do it again if you trained for it?
If I actually swam and actually trained for it,
okay,
I might. I should be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because the bike is easy. Yeah. The run is easy. It's 12-mile bike ride, 2-mile run. So all that's easy. It's just that swim. Wow.
What advice would you give to somebody who wants to start running?
Right. And of course, I've heard lots of advice on these podcasts. But I would say, if you're like me, if you're just a guy that just thinks they're athletic, but they're really not that athletic, and you think you can just get out there and do it, getting advice from other people is really good. There's a lot of great advice out there in the running community. Talking with people and saying, how do you do this? How do you do that? It's really good. I would also say that having a training program is very helpful. It keeps you regimented. It keeps you on track. You can see the progress. You can keep up with it and see how well you're doing. Running with other people is also great.
Yeah.
It can be a little boring if you're doing it by yourself. It can also be unsafe to do it by yourself. So running with other people, of course, having the right equipment, making sure you have those right shoes on, it makes a huge difference. If you're having shin splints or ankle pains and things like that, change the shoes, right? Go get fitted, switch them out, do something else. Because that actually was happening to me for a while when I was training. I was in the wrong pair of shoes and my ankles did feel it. And it didn't take long. It was maybe a mile into it, and all of a sudden both ankles are just on fire. And I'm like, why? I haven't really gone that far. I switched shoes, no pain. It's a huge difference. So if you're experiencing those kinds of issues up front, then go get it taken care of. And of course the fuel and the hydration, making sure that you have plenty of water, things like that. But do your research. Don't just get out there and just start running and thinking whatever you did in high school or whatever this. Do the research, talk with people, figure it out.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Do you have any goals for running?
I currently do not have any goals. So that's going to change, I'm sure. But I don't know. I guess I would like to run another 10K. Okay. So I would need to train for it, because if you don't train, you lose it.
Or the Battleship 12K.
Yes.
Or
training for the 12K.
Battleship 12K.
Would be nice. Yes.
Do you have a mantra? You talked about how sometimes it gets boring. You're out there by yourself. Is there something that you say?
Yeah. Oftentimes whenever I'm running, I find myself doing a diagnostic check.
Oh, okay.
Over my body.
Okay.
If I feel like I'm tired and my body is basically saying, hey, shouldn't you take a break right now?
Okay.
And shouldn't you just relax and maybe just walk a little bit? Remember how you used to walk a lot? Maybe you should do that again. I do a diagnostic check. Okay. So I start with my head and I say, is my head feeling really hot? Do I have a headache? Things like that. Is there anything uncomfortable? And I say no. And then I come down to my torso area and my midsection, and I ask myself, am I any pain or any cramps? Is it side splitting and all that kind of stuff? And I'm like, no. And then I get down to my legs, and I'm like, all right, how are my legs feeling? Do they feel like they can keep going? Do they feel strong? And I'm like, yes. And then I get down to my ankles, and I'm like, how do my ankles feel? My ankles feel fine. Then why are you wanting to stop? Just keep running. So that's what I tell myself in my brain is I just do the diagnostic check. Of course, it doesn't take all that time to do it. I just run down my whole body and ask myself, how am I actually feeling? And then if I'm feeling fine, then it's just my mind telling me to stop running. So my body's like, you can keep going, actually. So just keep going.
Wow. I did not know that. That's really good. I like that. So you've ran a 10K, but you did a training program, and so you ran different mileage. Is there a certain mileage that you're like, ooh, that's my favorite to run?
2 miles.
2 miles. Okay. Oh, man. 2 miles. That's it. I like.
Yeah, so we do a lot of the do goods run. We call it run good, and we try to do that once a month. And oftentimes we do anchored movement, and that's on Saturdays. So we get out and run. And we used to do a run in Jackson, and we had a running club up there this year. But all those times, I run 2 miles.
Okay.
And I feel like if I can run the 2 miles, I'm doing good. I try to compare my times with the 2 miles. I try to be consistent with doing exactly 2 miles and then comparing my times from different places and just trying to make improvements on those 2 miles. So I feel like I've accomplished something if I run the 2 miles.
I like it. Okay. So one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on this month is something that we had talked about earlier, and that is being part of the Women's Resource Center here in Mobile. They do so much for the school system, going in and talking to kids about goals and their future, having them think just a little bit differently than what culture says to think about. But then also not only the education support that they give to families, but also the medical support that they also give to families. They have an amazing run coming up September 30th. And so that's really exciting. We were like, this is the moment we wanted to have you on this podcast this month, because, you know, you and I talk all the time, like, okay, who's coming on next and that sort of thing. And so we knew that as a family, we needed somebody to represent us and represent part of our story. And so supporting the Women's Resource Center, that was a huge honor for us to be able to partner with them and to be able to say, we want to support you in this run. And they were like, hey, let's support the podcast. And so that's just been such a really fun thing. So again, that run is September 30th. We're really excited about it. We're somewhat training for it. You are. I'll be there running. I'm very excited. But yeah, so that leads into the question, when you're not running, what are you passionate about? What do you like to do?
Well, just speaking to the Women's Resource Center, this is something that we are passionate about because it's part of our story.
Yeah.
Our family, the way it started, wasn't the way it ought to have been started. And unfortunately, I actually pressured you to actually have an abortion. And that was before we got married and things like that. And of course, looking back, I just kind of hate myself for doing that. But of course, being young and not knowing things and not being educated on what the options are for when you find yourself in a crisis pregnancy, I just felt like this was a quick, easy fix. And that's just how I viewed it. I didn't see any negatives about it. I didn't understand what was going to happen to you if you actually went through with something like this, whether physically or emotionally. And unfortunately, I was pressuring you to do that. Now, you were very strong and almost stubborn and basically saying, I'm not going to go through with this. And you gave me this ultimatum, like either you're going to raise this child or I'm going to give it up for adoption. So I was like, no, I will be with you. I will support you. And of course, the kid that we're referencing is our son, Peyton.
Yeah. Who's now in college. Yeah. And his name means victorious warrior. And then, of course, we got married, and now we have a daughter who's a senior in high school. And so I think for our family, we never take for granted the moments that we've gotten to see, whether our son swim competitively, graduate high school, and now as he is working so hard to become a coastie and following his college dream at Marion, and our daughter, her senior year, to be able to go wherever, whoever wants to pay her. So any colleges listening, she would like to come to your school. That's really where our passion began, because we didn't know about pregnancy centers then.
Yep.
And so that's one of the things that we said is, had we known, we think we know we would have been better parents.
Right.
And better prepared. But we saw God's hand in all of that and the purpose, because we didn't have to buy any clothing for Peyton until he started school in kindergarten. And again, just the miracle that he is, the miracle that our family is.
Yep.
And that is a huge part of the fact that the Women's Resource Center came to his school, and they were sharing statistics about if you have a teen pregnancy or get married early. And he's the one that helped us understand that our family truly is a miracle. He came home and he said, our family beat the odds.
Yes.
So we're very grateful for that. And so as hard and as messy as that story is, we really got the better end of the deal, because we have a beautiful son and a beautiful daughter, and watching them chase their dreams. And the great thing about the Pregnancy Center as well is that if someone's listening and they did have an abortion and they need help, they do provide those services as well. They're there literally to walk through any phase of life within the community. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for them. And as you said, in Clark County, we got to be board members, and you were on
abstinence. We were presenting in the schools, all the schools in Clark, Washington, Choctaw County. We would talk to the teenagers. We would share our story and tell them this is a path that you don't necessarily have to go down. But if you find yourself in this kind of situation, there are people here to help. And they love you. They pray for you. They make sure that you have all the resources you need and all that. And I actually became the fatherhood coordinator there as well. And then I ended up becoming the coordinator for all the abstinence presenters. That was all great. We really loved that experience, and that's still a passion of ours. So supporting the Women's Resource Center is a no-brainer for us.
Right.
We don't have to talk about it and discuss it. It's something that is part of our family and it's part of our history, and that's what we want to make sure that everyone else knows about.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, you also have a side business, Gaillard Tech Services, because what people may not realize is that you are also a full-time teacher.
Yes.
So, computer science teacher.
Yes.
But you also work in helping rebuild people's websites or create websites. So, how did that come about?
Well, it came about as a need to just be able to generate some extra income, but also to just help the local community. I was able to identify multiple people who had websites, but they didn't have great websites. It had information on them, but it wasn't interactive, it wasn't professional looking, and things like that. And I took the skills that I know from web development and started helping other people. So either I reached out to people who'd never had a website at all and created a brand new one for them, or I took a website that was already in existence and made it even better. So I just enjoy doing that. It's a great hobby of mine, and I've built multiple websites for myself and for our family. And of course, the runyourstory.com website is another passion that I always keep updated and make sure it's good to go. So yeah, that's really how it started. And I've just enjoyed it. I don't really see it as a chore, I guess you could say. It's something that I just really enjoy doing, is developing and changing and altering web pages. So I do that. And Gaillard Tech Services also does tutoring. So I tutor mostly high school students. So anyone who is interested in computer science tutoring, I do that. I teach multiple languages. I teach multiple softwares. So I like to make sure that's available to the community. And I typically, since I've been so involved with the homeschool communities for so many years, I try to target them as well. And I try to think about how I can help the homeschool community out even more. So my current project is the SouthAlabamaHomeschooling.com website. And it is just a wealth of resources for homeschoolers. And I just cannot believe how much is actually on there. And that was before I even started editing it. And then you couldn't really find anything. Now there's a search bar. You can actually find things. Everything's nice and professional looking. So, yeah, that's just something that I'm really passionate about, is making sure that I'm helping other people become successful in whatever they're doing. I have lots of nonprofits that I've reached out to. I don't charge them hardly anything to be able to develop or update their website. And I just want to make sure that they're successful. So
I love that. That's really cool. You also play pickleball.
I do. Yeah. We've been playing for a little over a year. and that's been some interesting experiences. But we've gotten pretty good. So, and we like to play in the tournaments and things like that. And pickleball is a great active sport. So if you want to think of that as like a cross training
That's very true,
for running, it's energetic. You run around, you have a lot of fun.
I love that. Any final words of wisdom?
I guess my final words of wisdom is go to runyourstory.com.
That's funny.
That website, it has a lot on there. It has the events that's coming up, all of the running events, things like that. You have all the information about those events in our area. It has different running clubs that are in the area. So if you are a running club and you want to be on the website, just reach out to us and let us know. We'll just add you on there. There's running stores on there, so you have access and you know what all the running stores are in this area. And there's a shop on there. So if you want to go shopping for some running items, you can get on there for that. And sometimes we just do special things. For upcoming races, we have a sponsor that we put on the very front page, whatever the month happens to be. And we put that on there. And sometimes we have special things that we include on the website for some upcoming races that are coming up. So getting people to actually go to the website, check it out. I did put a lot of work into this, y'all. And it's for the running community. It's for everyone to learn more about running and to get excited about running and things like that. So I will take lots of advice. So if there's something on the website that's not there and you want, I can add it. So be thinking about that.
I think one of the cool things you did, that it's so cool that you saw the need, like you saw it, and anytime that you say, hey, like I've added this to the website, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't even think about that. But on the very first page, you scroll all the way down, there's all the upcoming races, and you try really hard. You do a lot of research from this area, Florida, Mississippi. There's all different kind of races that are on there. And of course we have Fresh Junkies because we're a Fresh Junkie ambassador, and that's just really cool. And you can click on it and it takes you right to that site to go register. And I was like, this is so cool.
And convenient.
Yeah. If you're looking for a calendar of events, like it's on there. And again, like Grace said, if it's something that you don't see that you're like, oh, I want my race on there, just know either we didn't find it, or it just wasn't ready, or we just don't know about it.
Yeah, actually, I have a form that's underneath the calendar that you can actually submit your race. And it actually walks you through all the different items you would need to include so that everything's very clear on the website for whatever the event happens to be. So if you do have an event coming up and you want it to be on the website, then just fill out that form. It sends it right to me, and I can put it in there within 24, 48 hours.
Yeah. So again, cool concept. Didn't even think anything about it. So again, thank you so much for all that you do for Run Your Story, because the website would be non-existent if it wasn't for you. And I also understand that I cannot afford your services. And it's a conversation we have all the time, because I'm like, oh, for Father's Day, people may not realize this, but you got 2 Run Your Story items because you love Run Your Story. And so that to me is just so cool to have not only your website developer and podcast editor, but you're also my husband, who at any moment could say, Allison, you literally don't have time to do it, but you make time for it. And so I know how much you sacrifice, which is another reason why we wanted you on the podcast, because your story is just as important and just as needed as everyone else's. And people need to know that, hey, the guy that's behind the computer and the podcast, he really, truly loves this running community and has a passion for it and wants to see it grow and wants to see it become what it could be, because you see things way differently than I do. And so, again, truly thankful for you, and thankful for our Patreon supporters who allow us to pay you just a little tiny bit. But it's something. And again, you mentioned that you use a software. And so now Patreon supporters pay for that software. So that way it's easier for you to be able to edit. And so we're, again, truly grateful for Patreon supporters. And just, again, can't say enough great things about Gaillard Tech Services. But and also thank you for volunteering. There's a lot of times I come home and like, Gray, we're not going to run this race. We're going to volunteer. And you're like, yeah, sounds great. And you really have a servant heart. And I truly appreciate that about you, that you really care about the running community. And you also understand volunteering and just how important it is for us to have volunteers at races. So again, I appreciate you never saying no to that.
Right. Yeah, I love it. It's a great community to be a part of. And I do thank the Patreon supporters. They're very nice and generous. We thank you for that. And
yeah. Well, thank you, Gray, for sharing your run story.
You're welcome.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Thank you, Gray, so much for sharing your story. And again, thank you for what you do for Run Your Story and the running community. Truly grateful for you. And again, you don't get enough credit for all that you do with Run Your Story. And it wouldn't even have made it this far without you. And again, as we talked about in the podcast with our Patreon supporters, thank you so much for being able to pay for just a little bit of his services for Run Your Story. We literally can't afford him, but because of our Patreon supporters, I can give him a little something, and so I'm truly grateful for that. And believe it or not, guys, because we talked about Battleship 12K, he will be running Battleship 12K. So that was so excited. We got done with the podcast, and he goes, I feel pressured. So that was amazing. I've been trying for years to get him to run this race. It's one of my most favorite races. And so this was so much fun to be able to document it and to be able to bring it back and to say, hey, let's get you registered. So we literally registered him for Battleship 12K. And we used the Run Your Story 15 code. So that was pretty cool too. So huge shout out to Fresh Junkies for that as well. So very, very excited for the future for Gray and his running career. And again, just thank you again so much to the Women's Resource Center for the partnership that we're doing. We'll see you guys on September 30th. And as always, thank you so much to Mars Hill for providing such a safe place to be able to record. We didn't necessarily record this one at Mars Hill since we were together and we recorded at home, but it's just nice to know that we have that safe place to be able to record. And that just means a lot to us. We're truly grateful for Mars Hill and the love and genuine heart that they have for the running community. It's absolutely amazing. And as always, thank you to Gaillard Tech Services for editing the podcast, to keeping up to date with the website. Just, oh man, he's got so many great ideas, and just so thankful for him. And he just wants the best for Run Your Story. And again, truly thankful for him sharing his story and being vulnerable, and grateful for that moment that you guys get to know who edits the podcast. So that was really, really cool. And again, I learned things about that I didn't even know. So I thought that was really fun. And guys, as always, thank you to our Patreon supporters. You guys keep us going. You are the glue that holds us together. And without you, we could not do this. And so I'm very, very thankful for our Patreon supporters. Don't forget to like, comment, share the stories. Your stories are amazing and they deserve to be heard, and you never know who they're going to inspire. And so we love the feedback. We love getting to hear your stories, and we know that they truly are making not only Mobile better, but our state better and our world better. And it's so much fun to watch as people get connected together. And again, just it's such an honor to be able to share your stories. So guys, thank you so much for this, and great, thank you. Your stories become part of my stories, become a part of our running community stories. So guys, get out there, lace up your running shoes, and go run your story, because every story needs to be heard.